Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. India have beaten England by 100 runs today, meaning that they've now won 6 and 6. They've been tested in their last two games and have passed those tests with flying colours. So well done to India, and I'll now get on to reviewing the game. The 11s of both sides are unchanged from their previous outings, and Josh Butler won the toss and chose to field first. And I'd said in my preview video that England would give themselves the best chance if they won the toss and chose to bat first and look to defend the score that they posted on a tough surface for batting. And for other sides such as India and Australia, I've said it's for every team in this tournament, they've got the attacks to be successful at this venue. It aids the seamers and the spinners like we saw in both innings. And it's a case where if you've got a confident batting lineup, the way to go for those sorts of teams, for India, for example, would be to win the toss and bowl first. Even though Australia lost to South Africa at Lucknow, I thought what they chose to do at the toss was the correct decision. And in the case of England, the reason why I said they should bat first is because I wasn't surprised their bowling was effective in these conditions, but their batting lineup hasn't been in the best of form. And if they had to chase even a I thought India at one stage could look to get that 230 odd score. They got 229. If England even had to chase that kind of a score with how their batting has been going, would they be able to do it? You thought they would struggle, and you saw what happened in the end. So even though for other teams, probably more confident batting sides like in India and in Australia, winning the toss and bowling first would have been the correct decision. And England winning the toss and bowling first, you saw the patches they did get up front where the seamers are bowling and the spinners in the middle overs as well. But unfortunately, with how their batting was going, I think it would have been better off if they had chose to bat first. I'd said India should play Rohit ahead of Mohammad Siraj for this game. But going into the game, I didn't mind India playing three seamers given the nature of the surface. Ashwin would have done well in this game as well because the surface offers patches for the seamers and for the spinners, but I didn't mind them playing Siraj as well. The Indian openers walked out to bat and faced a top-class opening spell from Chris Woakes and David Willey. And I knew Chris Woakes would go well on the surface. I'd said before that they dropped him at times when they shouldn't have dropped him, for example, in Mumbai against South Africa. In this game, it was a correct decision to play him, and you saw what he did. And on David Willey, I said in my previous video that I thought his bowling wouldn't be as effective on most of the surfaces in India, given the pace that he bowls at. And today, he was very good. And both those two, they really challenged the Indian top order with the way that they bowled. And even though David Willey in the second over, after bowling a maiden in the first, conceded 18 runs, and where Rohit Sharma teed off, both the opening bowlers didn't let things go on from then. They curtailed things, and I thought deservedly picked up the wickets that they did. Chris Woakes picking up the wicket of Shubman Gill, the ball seaming in slightly. And I wasn't surprised Shubman Gill was dismissed because he wasn't looking as comfortable apart from the boundary that he scored. And on Virat Kohli, it was a case where he was hitting the balls to the fielder, and I thought the bit of fielding that created the dismissal, along with the good bowling, was a one-handed stop at extra cover by David Malan. Had that shot gone for four, then maybe Virat Kohli wouldn't have played the shot that he did. Tried to go down the track, didn't get any contact at all, and he was caught by Ben Stokes at mid-off. So a good piece of bowling and two important big wickets for India you'd think that were lost. And since they hadn't lost a game thus far, I thought it was good for India to be tested. I thought the England attack, despite the fact that it hasn't been in great form throughout this tournament, I thought they didn't have the attack for the Indian conditions. But I did think, like I said even in the previous segment of this video, every side has got the attack to bowl in Lucknow. And you saw with what England were doing throughout this innings that was the case. And what did I say in my previous video? The only way this Indian side will come close to losing in a group stage game or maybe even in a knockout game, depending on who they play, is if they don't help themselves. What do? They continue not helping themselves in the case where I'd said in the first game of their campaign that Rahul should open the batting against Australia. He didn't have to open the batting today, but he should have opened the batting against Australia. He didn't. We saw what happened. He didn't walk out at 4. We saw what happened. Today you're facing Chris Woakes, David Willey in conditions that aid them in their bowling very well. Who's more likely to deal with the movement on offer from the seamers based on what we've seen thus far? Rahul, who's opened in Test cricket, or Shreyas Iyer, who, when you're comparing the techniques of both those players against fast bowling when the ball's moving around, I think it's not much of a comparison with all due respect. Even though Shreyas Iyer and Henrik Larsson are the best spin attackers, I think playing against pace, at this point in time at least, you can't compare what Shreyas Iyer would do when the ball's moving around compared to others, especially with someone like a KL Rahul. And so they should have sent KL Rahul out to bat at 4. Had they done that, they may not have lost that third wicket when the score was on 40. And maybe the partnership between Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul would have started from a bit earlier on, and that may have changed the course of the innings more than what the partnership eventually did so. Because eventually that partnership was the one that bailed them out of trouble. They're very rigid in the way they structure the batting lineup. Yes, KL Rahul's done well at 5, but he's also done well at 4. And yeah, I didn't get that at all. That was another case where the management didn't help themselves. Chris Wilkes bowled a short ball and Shreyas said it was dismissed. So I didn't get that at all. And the reason why I'm saying KL Rahul should have batted at 4 is because he's got one shot that Shreyas said hasn't got, and that is the shot where he can play inside the line. He does that better than anyone else in world cricket. He's still at the crease and he can play inside the line. Shreyas said you saw was quite frenetic, and when the ball's moving around and when the seamers are on song, he can be frenetic. And if I can say that from the outside, if you're the team management and you've been with these players for a while now, just over a year or so, shouldn't you be recognizing that as well? And you've had opportunities against Australia as well where you should have recognized that and you didn't. So that's on that. And yeah, they only have themselves to blame. Luckily and unexpectedly, the partnership between Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul, you knew it would recover India from where they were, and it did, but they didn't help themselves by sending Shreyas Iyer out at 4 in this game. During the partnership that ensued between Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul, there's some good cricket all around from both sides. I thought England fielded very well today and they gave nothing away with the ball. There's only one criticism that I would mention, and I'd mention that at a later time. And the two batsmen responded to that challenge very well. And I'd said when previewing this game and also previewing games that have taken place at this venue and in Chennai, where you've got to look to get 135 runs or so in the first 25 overs as it gets difficult to bat in the latter half of the innings. India won 50 for 3 in 14.2, 100 for 3 in 25 overs. So this game wasn't following the road. This innings wasn't following the roadmap that you'd expect or would be ideal for a side batting first at this venue. But given the fragilities in the England batting lineup and they haven't had a great time with things thus far, I think India could afford to take things slowly. And even if they settled for a lower total than what they would have liked with their bowling, they could look to bowl England out in the second innings. Both batsmen went well, and on Rohit Sharma, he still managed to maintain a decent tempo throughout his innings, even when wickets were falling around him. On KL Rahul, I've said this before, he's the most secure batsman in this tournament by far, and that's why from the very first ball that he played, there was only one chance really that was offered. There was, I think the ball took the outside edge when Livingston bowled to him when he was in the middle of his innings. Apart from that, he looked as secure as ever, and both those two were going along nicely. They took India from, I think, 40 for 3 to 131 for 3, and by the 30th over mark. By that time, you thought this wasn't good. Like I said, this wasn't going to follow the ideal roadmap when batting at this venue, but India could afford to get a lower total considering the fragility in the England batting lineup. And the reason why I thought, even though KL Rahul was going a lower striker, the reason why I thought it was vital for him to bat through was because, like I've said at this venue, at the death overs, more than looking to blitz away, it's about getting ones, twos, and the odd boundary. And KL Rahul's got the perfect game to play that role. And with the shot that he played, a heave of the bowling of David Willey, it was so unlike him. And this dismissal it gave England the chance to get back into the game, because while this partnership was going, even though for the majority England did bowl quite well, they didn't have answers to how well these two were going. So I thought that shot, KL Rahul would be disappointed in the way that he played that shot because it's going very well. And had this partnership gone on for a while longer, in retrospect, India won by 100 runs. If this partnership went on for a while longer, if he batted at 4 rather than at 5, this could have been a 140-run win for India. So a good innings from KL Rahul, but unfortunately he got out at the wrong time, and this let England back into the game. And you've got to sing the praises of two players. One, Rohit Sharma, 87 of 101 today. He should have been on 5 centuries in 6 innings in this tournament. I think he was dismissed, unfortunately, in the 40s in the previous 2 games. And he scored 5 centuries overall in the group stage in the previous edition this year. Even though you thought, would he score 5 centuries in all? Even though you thought he'd score 50s, I didn't think he scored 5 centuries this early, but really he should have done. I mean, he's batted that well. I expect him to play well today, and he's continuing his blistering form. A kind of innings that it was a fantastic knock because India had lost 3 wickets and England were bowling very well as they did throughout the innings. It was testing times of both the batsmen who walked out to bat, and Rohit Shami led the way admirably. And other players, Suryakumar played arguably the best innings that he has played in an ODI for India. I think he was selected quite controversially with Sanju Samson scoring at least 150 in every series that he played. They backed Suryakumar Yadav, and in this innings, after being run out in the previous game, in this innings, played a very confident knock from the first ball that he faced. I think there was a slight chance when on the second ball he kind of chipped the ball back over David Willey's head for 4. But apart from that, he looked very confident, and I think when he was playing the shot off Markwood towards the end, this was the version that we saw of him even in the T20s and a few ODIs as well. So I think this really credit where credit's due. If you want to play an innings that amidst all the controversy, if you want to just say, right, I am here to do well when I get the opportunity, this was the innings. So very well done to him. He had to bat with the tail at the end, and especially when Jadeja was dismissed, you could back the others to hold one end up, but it was all on Suryakumar Yadav to get India to the score, along with Jadeja proving to be a very handy player down the order. So a fantastic innings from Suryakumar Yadav, and Jadeja 16 vital runs, Kuldeep Yadav 9 runs, and you thought 230. I thought that would be the score that India would get to. They got 229, and I thought that they were slightly short on the surface, but they had enough to trouble it. On the England bowlers, I thought they were mostly excellent. Chris Woakes and David Willey going very well up front. David Willey, I'd said in my previous video that I thought he wouldn't be as effective in most of the services in this part of the world. And today he was fantastic, 3 for 45 in his 10, and picked up 3 vital wickets as well. Chris Woakes, 2 for 33 in his 9 overs. I expect him to bowl well today, and especially with the way that he was bowling to Shubman Gill up front. And pretty much throughout his 9 overs really, but especially up front, I thought he was expectedly very good. Adil Rashid backed him to do well today as well, 2 for 35 in his 10. And Markwood, he didn't bowl badly today, 1 for 46 in his 9. At times he was taken for boundaries. At times he went for the wrong option where you saw him bowl short and on the leg side to Rohit Sharma and Suryakumar where he went for 2 sixes. But I thought he didn't bowl badly today by any means. I would have played Gus Atkinson ahead of him because I thought, considering the form that Markwood has shown thus far, I didn't think he would go as well today, but he didn't bowl badly today. And in the case of Moeen, 9 for 37 in his 8 overs. And the one criticism I've got in terms of the bowling is that, first of all, in team selection, I don't know why they're still playing Liam Livingstone ahead of Harry Brook. And before today, I didn't know why they were playing Markwood ahead of Gus Atkinson. Markwood did well today, but I would have still played Gus Atkinson. Liam Livingstone was brought on even before Moeen Ali when the score was close to 100. I think with the overs that he bowled, India got to 125 overs where the rate was in the 3-point somethings before that. As he didn't give too many runs in his first over, but let's be honest. I mean, he's bowled 1 maiden as well, but let's be honest. I mean, a lot of those were almost like throwdowns where KL hit the ball straight to the fielder. And from the second over onwards, you saw that he went for runs. And with those 4 overs, Chris Woakes could have bowled 1 more. Moeen Ali could have bowled 2 more. Markwood wasn't bowling badly. He could have bowled 1 more. And those are your 10 overs there. So what are they playing Liam Livingstone for? Are you playing him for his bowling? And I guarantee you the reason why Josh Butler bowled him was because of the old theory that 2 right-handers are batting, he bowls mostly leg spin, the ball's turning away. That's why he brought him on ahead of Moeen Ali, which I didn't get at all. Apart from the one game against Afghanistan, his bowling hasn't even been that effective. And with the bat, he's almost done nothing, with all due respect. So you've got someone like a Harry Brook who scored a 6-yard against Afghanistan. You've picked him ahead of Jason Roy in a controversial call, and you don't even play him. So I didn't get that at all. You saw with those overs there, he bowled him at a stage where they didn't need to bowl them. Luckily, KL Rahul played the shot that he did because after Liam Livingstone bowled those 4 overs, India got momentum. If that partnership continued, this may have been an 140 run loss. So they're lucky that KL Rahul played the shot he did, but I thought from a selection point of view, and when he chose to bowl Liam Livingstone, it didn't make sense at all. The England openers walked out to bat and they were looking good for the first 30 runs. Dawid Malan got the off drive away off the bowling of Mohammad Siraj, and then the shot that I thought, if you're watching live at the ground as an Indian fan, it would have been slightly deflating to watch, and that was the pull shot for 6 over mid-wicket. A very good shot. And even while this was going on, you thought they were 35 without loss against Sri Lanka. Look what happened then on a surface where, after being slow initially, it's quite a good venue to bat in. So if they capitulated on that kind of a surface, you thought chasing a score which would still be a challenging one against this bowling attack of this venue, they could do that again. And when Dawid Malan chopped the ball onto his stumps, he was going well, but unfortunately that wicket fell for England. And Joe was dismissed, a trapped WW in the next delivery. Then it was only deja vu rather than thinking it could happen again. And from that point onwards, England lost, I think, 5 wickets for 22 runs in a 10 over span, and that pretty much put the game to bed. And I'm not surprised this has happened at all. I did think England would struggle. I mean, the Indian bowlers are outstanding. I mean, I'm not surprised. They were, both sides of bowlers were very, very good. So the pressure that they put on the England batsmen, even though Mohammad Siraj didn't have his greatest of days today, he was on 17 runs, I think, in 2 overs, so he came back okay. Apart from the 1 over that went for a few, he was okay. But he didn't have his best day today, but the others, I thought they put the pressure on very, very well. Bumrah and Mohammad Shami set the tone, especially with the way that Ben Stokes, you saw when he was facing Mohammad Shami, tried to go for the release shot and he was castled. And with the amount of pressure he can take, easily the best pressure player in the world, you'd think. With him being dismissed, you thought, even though he's just returned from injury, you thought with him being dismissed, how will the other players go? And you thought it was a bit of a capitulation. So there's not too much to say on India's bowling performance. It was expected. And the moment the first wicket fell, and especially the moment the second wicket fell, you kind of thought things would be repeating for England. On the Indian bowlers, Bumrah 3 for 32 in his 6.5. He's been outstanding in every game thus far. Mohammad Siraj, not his greatest day today, but apart from the 1 over, he was still good. Mohammad Shami, the best fast bowler in the world. I've said many times, if you exclude the return of Jasprit Bumrah, I'm very happy that he's got a chance to play in this side. Kuldeep Yadav 2 for 24 in 8, Ravindra Jadeja 1 for 16 in 7. So you thought all these bowlers would do well, and they did. And I think from an England point, and before I go on to England, from an Indian point of view, whenever Hardik Pandya returns, and I'm not saying this in the case of being picky, but I feel if India played Arjun and Ashwin, they'll be a stronger outfit. If Hardik Pandya returns, you've got to play him at 6, even though Suryakumar has played the best innings he has played so far in his ODI career. You play him at 6, you've got Mohammad Shami, Jasprit Bumrah, you play Hardik Pandya as a third seamer, and then you've got 3 spinners where even in the middle overs where you're going to play in the 1K day, for example, in the semi-finals, if something goes wrong, Kuldeep Yadav goes for runs, you need that roadblock in the middle overs, and you've got 3 seamers who could do the job perfectly well. So that's why I think, especially with Mumbai being a ground where the finger spinners do well, and you've got the case where they're playing South Africa needing guns to 3 spinners is the way to go. Ashwin, Jadeja, Kuldeep Yadav, and this attack already to world-class attack, and it gets even better with Ashwin back into the side and Hardik Pandya back into the side as well. And on England, it's a case where there's been talk that they should go through another reset. I don't really think they have to go through another reset because take away the favourites tag just because you saw them on paper and you thought, oh, they look good. Let's take away the favourites tag and apply cricketing theory. What are they going to be the favourites playing in India? Even though, and since, like I said, since 2021, that was the last time they had their full strength team in terms of performance and the players available to them. With injuries and loss of form, it's a team that looks good on paper. Even when they've won in England and South Africa, it hasn't been the way that you've seen previously. And they've lost a couple of early wickets in a lot of those occasions. And it's taken Dawid Malan and Josh Butler to rescue them. And a bowling attack that's given quite a few runs, but they've been able to compete because of a few players contributing with a bat, and the fact that a few sides, for example, New Zealand didn't quite utilise some things against England in the recent series. And honestly, you're looking at the players they've selected. Largely, they couldn't have selected better than this. I mean, dropping Jason was a huge mistake, like I said before, and you don't even play Harry Brook when I think there's every reason to do so. Liam Livingstone was always going to be a lottery in India and 50 overs cricket. He's done well in the IPL recently, but 50 overs cricket is a completely different ball game, especially when he's having to walk out earlier more often than not. Would you think he's got that gear to watch things, kind of see how things go before he explodes and get his team to a place where he can do that? You wouldn't think so. Today was the only case where he kind of showed a semblance of that, but because of the wickets falling around him, he couldn't really do much. On the bowling, I'd say they'd struggle in these conditions. So apart from maybe Adil Rashid, you thought Mark Wood, with the way he looks to bowl, you've seen Haris Rauf as well, bowling 150 odd, just bowling at a length in this part of the world. Is that going to work for you? And most services know it won't. They've not played Chris Woakes and they've needed to play him, and so that's a problem that they've had as well. And I don't think they have to change too much. It's just the fact that you've got someone like a Johnny Bairstow who hadn't scored runs for the last 2 years now, and they picked him inside ahead of Jason Roy because they wanted to pick Harry Brook. I wouldn't put too much of the blame on Ben Stokes. It's not ideal that even though he scored a 50 and 182 in the recent series against New Zealand, he was injured, and then in the 3 games he has played, I thought he looked good against Sri Lanka, but with the wickets falling around him, he couldn't do much. It's a case where you're looking at this batting lineup and you're thinking, aside with Joe Root, Ben Stokes, Joss Butler, and informed Dawid Malan, the batting shouldn't be their main problem. It should be the bowling. And yet, it's been both. And even today, when the bowling expectedly went well, you saw how the batting went. So, I don't think much of a reset is required. I mean, if the same side played in England, or if this World Cup took place in South Africa, maybe instead of India, would they have qualified even? It depends, but they wouldn't have finished 10th by any means. So I don't think there's too much of a need for change. Maybe a few players in here and there, but I just think they were wrongly heralded as the favourites by many people. You look at even, for example, the English commentators. They're expressing surprise that the team didn't do well. Everyone's saying, oh, it's baffling they didn't do well. This isn't surprising by any means. If you assess their squad when playing in India, this isn't surprising by any means at all. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm not surprised by this at all. I said in my preview that they would struggle, and they struggled quite a bit. Them qualifying for the Champions Trophy in 2025 is also a threat, given the new development that Pakistan will qualify no matter what. So they have to finish in the top 7. So I wish them well. India, like I've said, another character, a win that really has brought about their character to the fore. 2 wins now against New Zealand and against England. I think they'll most likely go unbeaten throughout the group stage. And if you're going close to being exposed against New Zealand and against England today, and you still prosper in the way they did, then hats off. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure India will go unbeaten throughout this group stage, and for England, they'll have to reassess, come back for the last 3 games and see what they can get. So that's on that. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?